friends, and we are back. I'm sorry it's been a minute. I have been deathly ill for a solid week, so if my voice sounds a little weird, that's kind of why. But today we are back taking a look at the Queen of Shadows and Queen of the Moon from the company whose name is, and I shit you not, Grey Knight, Guardian of the Horde. Because why not? Everything has to have long dumb names anymore, right? So obviously these are a third-party offering from a not Sylvannas Windrunner and a not Tyrande Whisperwind, and not from the Warcraft universe. No, get that thought out of your mind. But we're going to look at these together because they are more or less essentially the same figure. There's very minor detail differences, obviously. Well, major detail differences, obviously, but build and design, they're the same figure. But taking a quick look at the packaging here, as you can see, we have a greenish grayish box, and a purplish box with this symbol. Also, I killed Sylvannas back there. Anyway, as you can see, they are age 17 plus. So, all you little babies, get out of here. Nothing on the top of the box. Both of the sides of the box just have Guardian of the Horde. Bottom of the box has your barcode and stuff. And then your back of the box has not so much a breakdown of accessories, but their instructions on how to do things with them, which are not very good and are inaccurate in a couple of cases. But we'll touch on that as we get through this. So, taking a look at the figures, see I had Sylvannas posed up here, but we'll straighten her up so we can get a better look here. The sculpting and paintwork and detail on these figures are just absolutely astounding. From toe to head to tip to back, whatever you want to say, they are phenomenal. Now, clearly, Sylvannas here is based not on her in-game model, but on her high-res CGI movie model, as seen in, like, you know what I mean, like in the opening cinematic for Legion and the opening cinematic for the Shadowlands and Battle for Azeroth. We'll pretend that those don't exist in this universe. Anyway. As you can see here, she does have a soft goods cape with a wire, so it is bendy. We do have a separate quiver right here, and we'll go a little bit more over those here in just a minute. Then looking at Tyrande, they went sort of the same route here. She is not so much based off of her in-game model. However, she does not have a high-res CGI model. They haven't done her in any of those. So they kind of took some artistic liberties here. And I kind of feel like they borrowed elements from the Night Elf that was in the CGI high-res videos from, the original Vanilla Warcraft and from Burning Crusade. But as you can see, again, sculpting and detail on everything is just phenomenal. Really, really well done. Nice colors. I think the face sculpts on both of these are absolutely fantastic. Again, because we don't have a version of Tyrande in this style, it's kind of hard to say that that's Tyrande, but I mean, it's Tyrande. But Sylvannas, they nailed the way she looks in her high-res CGI form. Just perfectly. Well, for the most part. We'll touch on that here when we talk about their accessories, which let's go ahead and start with that. So Sylvannas gets her bow that we did see from Battle for Azeroth, and this is an in-game model, so it does exist in the game. Now, all of their accessories do come apart in order to better fit in their hands. Sylvannas also gets a couple of daggers. Again, very nice paint and detail on these. They are a little bit of a softer material. They're not like super gummy or anything, but they're not super rigid. She also gets an arrow effect. So, she's firing a magic arrow. We get a little tree here with all of her extra hands. So as you can see, she's got 2 open palms. She's got sort of a 2-finger arrow hand and another holding hand, a couple of little clawed hands, a couple of fists, and a couple of grabbing fists. And then she's got these little pieces right here, which these are for her eyes because she has posable eyes. And we'll show that off here in a minute. Sylvannas also gets alternate shoulder pieces if you want to remove her pauldrons and have her going without her armor pauldrons for whatever reason. And then as a pre-order bonus, if you pre-ordered her, you got a bare midriff for her. Which, makes sense for Sylvannas because she spent most of her Warcraft life, or unlife, showing off that belly button. Only covering up here recently. Maybe it's modesty, maybe it's, being more PC, or maybe it's that her rotting flesh is finally just, given way. Who knows? And then lastly, we get an alternate head with her bansheeing out with the red bloody eyes, which I've seen a lot of people post pictures of this head. Apparently, whether or not you get decent paint on this head is very hit and miss. On mine, it's fairly decent. The teeth do bleed into the lips a little bit, but it's not terrible. But yeah, some of the ones I've seen online that people have been getting, this head has been very, very, very haphazard. Now, both figures also do get spare wrist pegs in case you break them, which does happen on figures like this all the time. Now, for Tyrande, once again, we do get a bow, and this is something that's been seen in-game, and it does come apart, just like so. We get 2 warglaives, because warglaives should always come in pairs. And again, this does pop apart. It's a little bit different, sort of fits together like a little puzzle. And again, sculpting and detail on this is phenomenal. We do get another arrow effect, this time in blue, and it is a different sculpt. If you want to compare the two together here, you see they are not the same sculpt. They are different. Likewise, she gets a tree of hands, pretty much the same style of hands, but as you can see, she's got the little backing on her hand here. She does not come with the little sticks to pose the eyes because she does not have posable eyes since they're whited out. We also get an alternate head, which is screaming, but also, at least on my copy, the ears are very lopsided. It's like this ear is higher up on her skull than this ear. And also, another weird bit is that the ponytail is different. So you can see how her hair is here with the little tied back bit hanging down. Here, the tied back bit is hanging up like a top knot, and then the rest of her hair is kind of bunched up against the back of her skull there, which is weird. It's very, very different. Sculpting and paint on this one is definitely better than the Sylvannas one, despite the lopsided ears. And if I look here, I can see those ears are separate pieces and glued into place. So it's very likely that they were just not attached in the correct position. Both of their ears are also pretty flexible. Now, I will say it's odd that she gets the screaming face and Sylvannas does not. She just sort of is like, because, not ignoring the fact that she's literally the Banshee Queen. There's also the fact that, in this time period, she was known for doing a lot of screaming, bansheeing things. So, I don't know. And also, as a pre-order bonus, she too, Tyrande also gets a bare midriff. Why, though? Because, I don't know. Because she's not known for bare midriffs. I kind of know why, and again, we'll get into this as we get into the construction of these figures. But yeah, we'll yeah. Let's just say there's decisions being made in these things' construction. Now, this company does have a few other figures out. I did originally have them on pre-order, but I had to cancel just due to finances. They do have another elf in Death Knight armor kini, if you want to call it that. We also have a couple of orcs that look really good. There's an undead rogue that they did that looks amazing. But unfortunately, due to finances, I just had to pass. All right, so articulation on these guys or girls are the same all the way around. We do have a ball-like joint at the inside of the shoulder, inside the chest, as well as a universal joint outside here, which gets very long way of motion there, as well as doing things like that if you want to. We do have a bicep swivel. We do have double jointed elbows, but they're more just to get a more natural bend right there. As you saw from the wrist pegs, we do have a universal wrist joint. So we have a peg going into the hand, peg going into the wrist. So it swivels at two locations and then goes in and out, depending on how you swivel that. We have a ball joint at the top of the chest. We have a ball joint at the base of the midriff at the waist. Then we have very similar joints here to the shoulders up here in the crotch. Get your minds out of the gutter, guys. So we do have just a swivel at the ball part of it and then a universal joint below it, which does sort of pull down a little bit and helps you get sort of a more of a straight cut there when you're doing the splits, if you're doing the splits for whatever reason. It does have a swivel up there, though not a very wide swivel, but a more natural leg swivel. We do have double jointed knees, as well as a rotation at the bottom of the knee, and we do have a full universal joint, very similar to the wrist pegs at the ankles. Now, as you can see, these figures are roughly the same size. They are registered as 1/10 scale, which I appreciate that. As I said in another video, companies tend to play fast and loose with the 1/12 scale. Basically, some companies would call this 1/12 scale, even though they're much bigger. These roughly around 8-inch mark, 8-inch to 10-inch mark. Now, we were going to talk about construction on these guys. So when you look here at Sylvannas, you can actually see, and this is the same as Tyrande, she has a softer bit of material over a internal skeleton right here, as well as this piece, which looks like it's trying to come off on me, going over that, which is a much softer piece. Now, likewise, we'll go ahead and pull off her head here. Her quiver does come separate in the box. It is a separate piece. You do have to put it on. Take a look here. Oh, my arrows got a little bit. The arrows do come out. They're just one big solid chunk. So if you want to have her out of arrows, you can totally do that. And then all of this here is removable. So if you want her to not have the little coif there, you can have that taken off. And we'll do the thing here for her midriff if you want to have her more like her, like her classic self. You can pop on. That's Tyrande's. On there, and as you can kind of hear from that, it is very tight. I will say the joints on Sylvannas are much tighter than the joints on Tyrande. In fact, Tyrande has a hard time standing because even though her ankle joints aren't loose per se, they're not tight enough to hold up her weight. So she really does like to fall. All right, so we talked about how Sylvannas has these extra bits right here because she has an internal skeleton here. And yeah, they did this. There's no painted detail on this, but there is sculpted detail. Guys, come here. Let me tell you something. If you want a goon to a toy, buy a life-size doll. Just saying. Anyway, these are just pegged in here with a ball joint. So if you want to trade these out to have the non-shoulder pauldron arms, you can do that as well. I will say, though, getting this back together is difficult because they made this whole upper torso squishy. And I'm worried about that over time because not only is it kind of hard to get together, but when you're posing either of them, as you can see, depending on how you're posing things, you're flexing that. And over time, I feel like that may end up being detrimental to the figure's overall health. This is a softer vinyl-like material. Um, there we go. I was able to get that back together. So it may not hold up over time. Sometimes these kind of materials do like to disintegrate and crack. Get back on there. There we go. So I'm not sure how well that's going to go as far as, time, age, and, if you're manhandling this thing. Now, the instructions for Tyrande have her skirt piece like it's going over her armor, which if you, play World of Warcraft, that ain't how that fits. So getting this on her is very, very difficult. One thing that does help is that she is slightly constructed different than Sylvannas. So Sylvannas, all of this down here is pure sculpt. All of her armor, the chainmail underneath there on her legs, her boots, everything is pure sculpted, solid, like this. Tyrande's, on the other hand, are not. So if you unpeg her foot here, you can actually slide that leg armor right off. And so she does have just sculpted and painted calves underneath there. Likewise, her gauntlets here do come off. I think Sylvannas's do as well. Yeah, hers are separate as well. So that's a very interesting way of constructing this. I don't know why they went that route. Maybe it was cheaper to do it that way as an overlay. I know sometimes that is the case in toy manufacturing. Oh, you know what? I forgot to point out that they do also have toe pivot and squeaky hips. Squeaky hips. I'm sure there's a medical term for that. All right, now on Sylvannas, as I mentioned, she does have posable eyes. So you do have to get in here and yank that face right off. There you can see it's got a little spot in there where it pegs in two places. You can kind of see the pegs right there where that goes in. And as you can see, there's the little backs of the eyes with tiny, tiny little posts in there. So on these little sticks, they have a little ball at the end with a tiny, super tiny, I don't think you can even really see it, hole right there. So you can just plug that into the back of the eye and drop the face and hope it doesn't fall on the floor, and then get it back up here again and then poke it into the back of the eye. And then you can use that stick to, actually you can white out her eyes altogether too. I don't know if you can see that very well, but yeah. And then you can move that eye around however you want to move it. So we have her cross-eyed. I'm not the biggest fan of these systems. There are some that they've made where you move one eye and it moves both of them. I do also wonder, if the paint will come off of that eye if you mess around with it too much. But either way, you can get it into a position that looks fairly natural, all things considered. About the only thing I can complain about as far as the sculpting and detail is the way they did Sylvannas' hair here. On both heads, it's just kind of sort of always floating and sticking out. And I really feel like they could have had these as separate pieces that are pegged into the back there so that they could rotate to sort of move out of the way, especially if they were done like little ball joints. They are flexible. It is a flexible material, but, it's still going to always be floating, which for the Banshee, red-eyed head, that's fine, but, but that is what it is. Now, as far as trading the hands out, it's just a simple case of pulling the hands off the pegs, then picking your hand you want to put on there. We'll put on her grabbing hand. And then we'll give her her bow. because why not? It is a tight fit in that hand, but you can get it through there pretty easily. Then plug the bow back together. And we'll go ahead and give her shooting hand, because I think you need to have her shooting hand in order for the effect part to fit on there. There we go. As you can see, mine's a little limp. Curves down. That's all right. We can make it work. And here the two of them are side by side. As you can see, Sylvannas can reach back there and grab arrows out of her quiver, kind of, sort of. Again, the arrows are all one chunk. Now, here they are with the Memory Toys Illidan Stormrage figure, which scales very nicely with them. Looks pretty good next to Tyrande, as he should. And just for some other scale comparisons, here they are with the Masterverse Tila, who also doesn't want to stand. And here's a Origins Man-at-Arms, since he's a 5-inch figure, so you can kind of see how they all scale together there. So yeah. Overall, I'm very, very happy with these figures. Again, I am worried about the construction as to how well those chests are going to hold up over time, how well the color matching is going to stay as time goes on as well, whether they crack or not. I see this a lot in a lot of collector-oriented figures coming from third-party companies out of China, Korea, and Japan. To have squishy bits, squishy boobs, and squishy butts, because what the hell, why not? Again, all my gooners out there, just buy a doll. Just buy a doll. This is so unnecessary in an action figure. It really is. Especially if it's something that is going to break down over time. And as somebody who is a toy collector who knows a lot about older toys made out of softer plastics, they break down over time. So either way, I do think these are fantastic figures if you can get your hands on them. I do believe they're kind of sold out everywhere already. They do tend to go fast whenever they do have these really cool third-party Warcraft figures. I picked these up at Gundamit.com. They are not a sponsor. But again, I do recommend them if you can get them, if you're big fans of the characters or just big fans of Warcraft. I would like to see a lot more characters get some love like this. Seriously, we need to get a good figure of Malfurion, because if Blizzard's not going to give Malfurion any love and respect, somebody has to. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, guys. I'm going to take some medicine and crawl back into bed. Y'all have a good one.